Most people have no idea what the fuck they're doing in their own lives. So they make dumb personal decisions. Imagine what it's like in business.
Things are completely fine. Things are growing until they're not.
The market will correct itself. Whatever mistakes had been made will be fixed.
Pretty easy to say that when you built the empire. The people that are 2 or 3 properties and are absolutely over their heads, they're not going to walk away scot-free, are they?
You're 18 years old right now. Like, what is the best way that I can grow my wealth and be set up for success in life? What is that?
The property boat's passed. The size of the deposit is massive.
5% for a 30 grand. You need more than 30 grand to start a business.
No, I don't think so. I think today's the best time in history to start a business.
That's not the decision most 18-year-olds are making. Should I buy a house or should I start a business? The average first home buyer is 37. The fuck are they doing from 18 to 37? It's like, if you are born into a location, you buy where you can afford.
Yeah, and what's the impact of people not being able to live near their families? Societal cost.
That's called life.
It's not life though. Like, life can be better. Don't you think that life is more interesting when you don't have enclaves of like the super rich people and then everyone else sort of has to live 100 k's from the beach?
Not really. No. Regardless if it's property or not property, people in Australia hate people that are successful.
And that's why I hold out so much hope for this like generation coming through, is that they're starting to wake up.
Australia's economy is geared towards real estate, regardless if you like it or not. Right now, you start a business, that's the fact.
You've clicked on this video and you're asking yourself the question, how do I get ahead in 2025? There are so many options and so many people talk about the wealth that's created in property or the wealth that's created in business, but what is the better option? Today I have Charlie Gearside, a founder of Eucalyptus worth over hundreds of millions of dollars, and Jack Henderson, notoriously known for his over $30 million property portfolio. We get deep in the debate. How do you get ahead in 2025? Is it property or business? Where I want to start, set the scene. Charlie, who are you and what do you do?
That's a great question. Well, I'm unemployed at the moment, so there's the start. I suppose I'm a founder of companies. One I started 6-7 years ago, Eucalyptus, has done all right. And before that was a creative director, software developer, and now I've become like a passionate person on the internet that has lots of opinions. So yeah, some resume, I suppose.
That's perfect. Jack, who are you? What do you do?
Mate, I'm a man of the people, really. If I was to summarize it in one word, passionate property advocate, and I run a few businesses, and I haven't made the rich list yet. Unfortunately, he left that off his resume. So in this rebuttal today,
if there was an asset rich list, I'm sure you'd be.
Just remember that everything I say is unfounded because I haven't made your rich list and the other guy has. So just remember.
So I want to start with you, Charlie. There's no two ways around it. Australia is obsessed with property. Why is that a problem?
We are obsessed with property. I mean, apart from it being, I think, increasingly boring, especially for my like primetime Channel 9 viewing habits, it's serving us. It's sort of like we're at the end of the lifespan of Australia's sort of how much wealth we can squeeze out of property. And the future is looking bleak for our kids, our grandchildren. Basically, you know, the mine is dry, and Australia's property obsession, it's going to come home to roost in the next decade or two.
Why is that?
Well, basically our economy is hollowing out in front of us. We're not really, we have this industry we've got a primary industry of mining and agriculture. We've got this tertiary industry of knowledge work. So like banks, anything that people work in an office. In terms of the middle, where we actually produce things, we innovate, new ideas, new businesses, we're pretty empty. I think we rank the lowest in the OECD for R&D expenditure as percentage of GDP. I think we're the worst in that same category for manufacturing, and all the capital that could have gone into those future-orientated industries has gone into property. People getting their first investment properties, smart people putting all their money and energy into this non-productive asset. And eventually that's going to come around to bite us. And I think we're seeing signs of it with our productivity levels, etc.
Now, Jack, one of the things I called out on that video was this idea of a non-productive asset. And I think when I talked about that, and although you can never fully explain things in a 60 seconds reel because everybody's like, Frank, you're boring, and they skip past, right? But it's a really interesting concern, right? And it's thinking about from a macro lens, from like the entire of Australia. And so for the viewers and the listeners, a non-productive asset meaning the entire country is fixated and focused and putting their money into property, and therefore we're not, instead of investing in business, which hires more people and all of the positive ramifications that come from it, it's tied up in these things. But you've got a point here, which is, most people, and I quote, most people should definitely not start a business because they suck at business.
Most people suck at life, let alone business. Like, that's the reality. You've only got to look on social media to look at a large enough sample size of the population and understand that if most people started businesses, you think we're unproductive now. Imagine what that would look like,
But the counter to that, right, and my job here today is I'm Switzerland. I am Switzerland.
So you're rich as.
So neither of you can be able to upset me. But I guess the counter to that, Jack, is if you think again from that macro sense, yes, some might argue like the 80-20 rule, like 80% of people are not going to be exceptional and 20% are. However, if we have a fascination from a country standpoint, you will have a lot of fantastic, amazing people that could have started incredible businesses that have fallen into the trap of just paying down their 30-year mortgage.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, people just, like, the reason people invest in property is because it's been a reinforcing thing. It's made people a lot of money. So it's like, well, if it's made my parents a lot of money and my grandparents a lot of money, then it would be silly of me not to do what they have done. And if you look at somewhere maybe like the US, I'm not an economist, but like the US's economy is geared towards people investing in the S&P 500. I would say more people invest in that than they probably do in property. It's different in Australia. And I actually talked to Jay Wright about this recently on a podcast. It's like the Australian economy is geared towards real estate and things that fall off that, right? It's like trades, it's the banking sector. That's why CBA is the biggest company in Australia. It's like people love real estate and it's made people a lot of money. So, it's unproductive in an asset when it's just sitting there because it's an asset that will continue to grow and make or build wealth. But it doesn't just get to that point, right? Like there's a lot of things that happen to need to get a dwelling somewhere. You need to develop land that creates jobs through the building and construction of real estate. And then it's the ongoing maintenance of real estate. Like people need to work in banks to keep people, or people's debt happening. It's still productive in a way, but it's not productive like, hey, I got a business, here's a job.
So to Charlie's point, like, do you see the taps running out, or will this growth that we've been seeing over 25 years, does that just continue exponentially?
Well, it's not 25 years. It's like since inception of Australia. That's how long real estate's been growing for. I think you've only got to look at more developed economies to see that we're not expensive. Like people think it's expensive. I just got back from the south of France. We're not expensive, I can assure you. And big markets like New York and LA and Tokyo and Hong Kong and all these places, like it's way more expensive. The populations are way more dense than they are in Australia. Like we're still a very young country. And I'm assuming that lots of people from around the world are going to want to continue to live here. That's obviously why our immigration rates are so high. And I think that's a good thing. And people need somewhere to live. So I'm not saying it's going to continue like it has because I don't know that for truth. But if people think it's not going to continue because of where prices are right now, to say it's expensive in, comparison to the rest of the world, it's just not factually true.
Charlie?
Yeah. I mean, people have been predicting a property market crash for the last 15 years, right? So I think I'm not going to argue the reasons why I think it's around the corner. I think so many people have done that for so long.
I've made that mistake.
But things are completely fine. Things are growing until they're not. And yes, Japan's a really interesting example, right? Because Japan sort of had the most expensive real estate in the world and sort of crashed, and now they've got a shrinking population, which I suppose Australia doesn't have, but it's so cheap to get property over there. I mean, there's Aussies buying bloody ski chalets left, right and centre in Japan for cheap. So yeah, I think we do have the blinders on as a society if we think that it's not, if the good times are going to keep rolling. And, you know, I think immigration is the thing that's propping Australia up. And if you look at New Zealand, they had a little downturn recently, and immigration has propped that up. But I'd be, I mean, if I was levered to the tits, I'd actually be quite nervy about the black swan.
So Jack, to use Charlie's words, I'd say you'd lever to the tits.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
My motto in life is leverage up and hold on. Yeah. So there we go.
Oh, good.
It's no different than raising capital in a company though. Like at the end of the day, you're using someone else's money to get an outcome.
Not quite the same. So raising capital and money, you're in a business, you're exchanging equity for that money. And if everything goes wrong,
Or a debt, one of the two.
that's different, right? So if you're using debt, then yes, it is the same. But if you're doing equity and you're raising, let's take Charlie's example with Eucalyptus. You know, if, for example, the business had collapsed, there is no, you know, the directors and shareholders not beholden to pay that debt back.
Sure, but you've also got a valuation that was once X that is now Y. So you still lost whatever perceived value was there, which is what happens in real estate, right? You think it's worth X, the market corrects and it's now worth Y. And if you're over leveraged, like what happened in the US, there's a correction. But like even if there is a correction, I agree, there will be eventually a correction. Who knows when it's going to be, next year, next month, or in 10 years' time, the market will correct itself. And whatever mistakes had been made will be fixed and it'll be off to the races again.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to say that when you sort of have like built the empire and have the cash flow businesses. But, you know, the people that have, you know, 2 or 3 properties and are absolutely over their heads, I mean, they're not going to walk away scot-free, are they?
No, absolutely not. But like same in business. When people go bankrupt in business, people don't walk away scot-free. So I think there's good times and bad times. That's just a fact. And if there is a correction in the real estate market and people are over leveraged, like to say the market's over leveraged is not factually true anyway. We've got a $10 trillion real estate market and there's $3 trillion of debt tied to it. So let's assume that the market come off by 30%, 40%, whatever you want to say. So it's gone from 10 trillion to 6 trillion. We've still only got 3 trillion worth of debt. So we're 50% leveraged. Assume that 3 trillion of debt is with a segment of the market, probably newer people who have entered the market because they're more highly leveraged than someone who's been in the market for say 10 plus years. They're going to be the ones most affected. But we're also going through a time now we've got an aging population and there's going to be this huge wealth transfer from mum and dad and auntie and uncles or nan and pops who have owned properties for many, 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 many years. They're debt free. People are going to inherit that and they're going to inherit a lot of wealth that maybe don't have wealth right now. So there's so many things at play that like no one actually knows what's going to happen. And again, all we can go off is what history has shown us. And even when there has been mega corrections around the world, Japan's obviously an extreme example of where it hasn't worked. But again, there's other things at play other than just the real estate market.
So let's stay there, right? So I think for the people listening today, they've read the tagline, you know, how to get rich in 2025. And the reason we're having this discussion is, you know, they're making these life decisions, right? And it's like, how do I get that next step up? You know, on one hand, you've just mentioned there this idea of inheritance. There's a stark reality of lots of people that will not happen for. And then there's this wealth transfer that happens. And I guess there's versions where if those wealth transfer happens and there's not people to soak in and buy, that's one moment for a potential correction. But I guess my question is like, in your words, Jack, you're 18 years old right now and you're trying to decide like, what is the best way that I can grow my wealth and be set up for success in life? What is that?
I would ask the question as like, what does wealth mean to you? Because if you want $1 billion company, real estate's not going to get you there. Like there's not a chance in the world that you're going to have a portfolio worth $1 billion or even, you know, a gross asset value worth $1 billion, let alone net asset value. But if you want to live a normal life and a secure life, like there's arguably nothing better than real estate. I'm trying to get debt now inside of a business, right? To acquire businesses. And if I wasn't real estate backed, there is this much chance that I'm getting anything from the banks.
Which is exactly the problem though, you see. So from Australia...
But is that a problem though? Because they're securitizing against a business that if you don't know how to operate it is worth what you're paying today, but is worth zero in 2 years' time when you fucking run it into the ground.
But from a like systemic point of view, right? So if we have like that's the way we've been, and that's one of my great arguments towards this whole debate is I remember we were doing multiple millions of dollars in revenue. We had cash in bank, and we went to ANZ and we said, "Hey, can we grab a 50 grand overdraft?" fucking zero chance, right? And it took so long. But like same time, Jacques and I were looking at a property and they're like, yeah, do you want a $1.5 million mortgage? No dramas, like literally zero dramas. And so the problem is, like, to your exact point, that's because that's the way Australia functions.
Yeah.
And therefore it like actually handicaps your ability to get into property, into business in that sense. But back to, I guess, to Charlie, what would you say for that 18-year-old who's trying to get ahead? What should they be doing?
Yeah, well, I'd say that the property boat's passed. Like the size of the deposit is massive.
5%. Oh, it's for $30,000. You need more than $30,000 to start a business.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think today's the best time in history to start a business
I agree.
and take bets on yourself. It's never been cheaper. Like whether you're making a physical product, a software product, running things like lean with AI, there's never been a better time in history to sort of bet on yourself, and I think it's just a much more optimistic take that as an 18-year-old you want to be thinking about, how can I like sort of shoot the lights out here? How can I look after my family? Which I think, to your point earlier, it's like, yeah, you can build $1 billion business, but if you miss, you're still doing really, really well in a business. And I just think it's more optimistic from the nation as well. Like, you know, you take other people with you. You like, I agree, 80% of people shouldn't start a business, but
More
you
than
can take those people.
More than 80%. Like, how many businesses shut down in the first 5 years? The
Well,
statistics
that stat's really interesting because that stat's basically the ABS publishes that stat, and it's even if you're a bricklayer that goes from being a subcontractor with their own ABN to working, being
but they
being
still
a
then
contractor.
go into the new business. It's like the X amount of businesses start, X amount of businesses finish, right? So they would going from one business to another.
Or no, I mean joining their contractor that employs them is basically the flip flop between being a sole trader and working for a company. That happens all the time, and those get counted as failed businesses. So I basically question that stat. Like, people always love to like roll out that stat. I agree that the majority of people shouldn't start businesses, but I reckon if, let's just say 1 in 10 Australians start a business currently, and 50% of people want to or have thought about it, and then maybe 20% of people have like the psychometric profile to be able to do it to a decent level, then I think that 10% delta is what we should be like shooting for, is basically get more people in thinking about that, because then the whole country will benefit. You know?
I agree. But I don't believe real estate is the reason people are not doing that.
Why?
Well, because that's not the decision most 18-year-olds are making. Should I buy a house or should I start a business? Like, the average first home buyer is 37. The fuck are they doing from 18 to 37? They're not thinking about, should I buy real estate or should I buy a business or start a business? Most people just suck. That's the reality. Like, that is my strong belief. It is like, most people don't want to fail. Most people have parents that have never done anything in their life and they want to be safe. Most people are scared about the judgment of everyone else. Like, that is what holds people back more than whether someone should invest in real estate or not.
Where do you get the view that most people suck? Like, what's your data to drive that?
I've just seen a large enough sample size of like the Australian population through social media and through just day-to-day life. And when I say most people suck, I don't mean like they just suck at life. It's like most people have no idea what the fuck they're doing in their own lives. They can't make a decision with confidence. They follow the masses and what everyone else is doing. Like, they can't think independently. They don't take risks. Like, that's just proven. And when you're like, my content reaches 10 million people a month. So I see enough comments and posts and we get enough messages to like get a read on, I think, a relatively large sample size. Like, I speak to 60-year-old people and I speak to 18-year-old people, you know, it's like, and I see a lot of people's financial situations through our business, and most people aren't crushing it. You know, like, most people are not crushing it. And then you look at like the data that's readily available. Like, most people live week to week. They have no money in the bank. It's not because the world's hard. It's because they make dumb decisions. So if they make dumb personal decisions, imagine what it's like in business.
One of the things you've called out in a lot of your content is this idea, you know, people will look at the cost to acquire a home now in terms of a deposit compared to what it was now, compared to 25 years ago. And I've heard your argument is suggesting, you know, yes, it's harder, but actually relatively, it all makes sense. However, it's like it is significantly takes a lot longer to get a deposit, right?
Yeah, for a median price. That's another thing that they're using median price property in a city, right, as their metric that they track, right? So like you think of like how many suburbs are in the median of Sydney? Fuck if I know. Like I think Sydney goes to like Cronulla, it's out to Penrith. Like they're using the same metric that they've used for however long. Median price in Brisbane, median price in Sydney, median price in Melbourne, and it's like I think it's a data point, and they also use houses. I think it's a data point that doesn't really reflect how it should be looked at, because Sydney 100 years ago is not the same Sydney as today. Sydney 100 years ago probably had half the population that it does right now. So like suburbs like we're in right now weren't as competitive. People didn't want to live, as close. There wasn't as many people. So now to include this same suburb, which is is an affluent suburb, which is what happens as locations gentrify and the populations get larger, is not an accurate representation. And that's why I said, like, when you're born in the US, you don't go, oh, fuck, the median price of a property in New York is $10 million. I can't afford to buy there. Well, of course you can't, because it's New York. But that's not a data metric that's tracked, because they're not fucking dumb. It's like, if you are born into a location, you buy where you can afford. And as you get older as a nation, unfortunately, what history shows us is the wealth gap gets larger. Like, so you either get with that or you don't get with that. But to track that, we keep tracking the same city that, of course, is like one of the wealthiest cities in the world. It's just not accurate to say that, we can't afford to buy in Sydney, so it's expensive. Of course it's expensive. Sydney. But you can afford to buy in lots of other locations around the country that are less expensive and are more relative to maybe 20 years ago, but it's just not the same location. So people just need to keep up with the times, as opposed to tracking the same number that their parents tracked fucking 40 years ago and going, oh, that's upsetting.
So when you buy a house in like Launceston, do you ever think about it as, hey, I'm like maybe pricing out like a first home buyer here? Like,
Well, we don't buy houses in Launceston, so I've never thought that.
Oh, mate, it's up and coming, I hear.
Do we ever think about first home buyers priced out? No. Not at all.
No, because that's probably like pretty low on the list of things, right? So it's like, if you're a property investor, you've got your own house, right? Maybe you're getting your second or third property here. But like the cost of that, like societally, are pretty clear, right? Is that you're basically driving the price up for, the people that you talk about sucking at life that can't hold a job down.
I was a first home buyer 10 years ago, and I never had someone give me the money to go and do it. I fucking found a solution. I didn't buy a house. My parents bought a house. I bought an apartment in a location that I could afford in a great suburb. And we buy hundreds of properties a year for first home buyers now.
So you're saying anyone could do it if they put their mind to it?
Anyone can do it. Just like anyone can start a business, anyone can go and buy a property. What stops people from buying property is they go, well, I can't afford to buy a property when my parents bought their first property. I don't want to live 50 k's from wherever. I don't want to do this. I don't want to sacrifice.
Yeah, and what's the impact of like people not being able to live near their family, do you reckon, like societally?
Impacts?
Like for example, if you need, let's just take an example that's like affects me personally. Is that I've got kids and immediate family that now are starting to live all over the city, and so childcare is obviously a difficult thing. It's no longer easy. I wouldn't be shocked if you actually had a childcare business, but like people get spread out all over the place.
Yep.
Like that's a societal cost.
That's called life. That's what.
Well, it's not life though. Like life can be better. Don't you think?
Well, life it gets better when you make it better. But to say that it's a societal issue because I unfortunately can't live near my family because they don't do as well as maybe I do, that's just life. Like we can't just have like one price for everywhere so everyone can live close to where they want to live. Like unfortunately, it's not how the world works.
No, and I don't think that's the suggestion necessarily.
Or we can, like, wealthy people can choose not to live in wealthy locations and go live with the poorest member of their family, so life's easier for everyone. But
it's kind of like you know those
will do that.
You know those like back in the day how they used to like put housing commission all through all suburbs.
Idiots.
Like the like the rich tapestry of life. Don't you think that life is more interesting when you don't have enclaves of like the super rich people and then everyone else sort of has to live 100 k's from the beach, that kind of thing?
Not really. No. I think like when you live with people that you have more in common with, it's better. Like where I grew up, it's not with wealthy people, but there's not a chance in the world I would live there now. It's not because they're bad people. It's just that
you've moved up. You've socially.
No, it's just not. It's not
socially
what
moved up.
it's not what. I wouldn't go to barbecues with people and talk about shit that doesn't interest me. Just like I wouldn't start a business inside of an industry that doesn't interest me. So I understand, seeing other parts of the world and I mean, no one in Australia is actually poor in comparison to other parts of the world. But to think that there shouldn't be more wealthy parts of the world and, less wealthy parts. My car got stolen out of my driveway the other day. It can get stolen by someone in fucking Bronte, I can assure you. I don't want to live near those people.
So let's move to a question for you, Charlie. You see that step for this young person buying a property as a trap. Why is that?
Well, I think most people view the majority of people don't necessarily view property as the game to get ahead, say Jack, and they lock themselves in. They think that, I need to buy a property because property only goes up. I need security. And essentially that what they are doing is locking themselves into a 30-year mortgage and all their equity, which this big thing equity is sort of just locked within the walls of this unproductive asset. They miss out on the optionality of being able to do interesting things with their lives. They miss out on the cash flow, being able to, give them all these options of how to live. And I just think it's almost like business is a secret in Australia, and those that know about it are in on it, and then everyone else doesn't really know about it, or they don't talk about it because it's culturally been one of these things that you're not really allowed to beat your chest about. And I think that's the opportunity that's ahead of Australia as things start to get tough and people start to feel the bite of the cost of living and all that kind of stuff.
One of the things, Jack, that I think is blaringly obvious, right, in terms of your property portfolio, is you have a mega good business. You have a solid business that is generating cash and generating opportunity, and therefore you can buy. Does that change your view? Because if we're talking to that average punter, they don't have the cash machine that you have. Is it still the same?
100%. I say there's two things you need to grow wealth. It is an asset to grow it with, and you need money. You need to be able to earn money. So you've either got to do that through a job, or you've got to do it through a business. And the reason I say most people suck is because the reality of most people getting into jobs is some people stay in most people stay in a similar role for their whole life. It's not like they're exceeding, they're going from earning 60,000 to 80,000 to 200,000 to 400,000. They're not progressing through the ranks. It's people just get jobs and they stay there forever. And I agree with what you said around people tie themselves to a 30-year mortgage and, security and all the rest of it. People shouldn't do that. And that's why I always talk about rent investing and you should view real estate as an investment versus a security, because that's just this construct we've built up to think that owning our home is safer than renting it, when it's fucking bullshit. But you're not going to build any sort of wealth, regardless if it's through property or through another asset, unless you generate cash flow. And I've seen a lot of P&Ls in businesses, and most of them are not very good. So most of them are probably worse than having a job. At least with a job, you don't have any actual expenses. With a business, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble, in a relatively short period of time, with, raking ATO debts and fucking, debts to suppliers and all the rest of it. If you are good at business, it is incredible. There is so many tax advantages. There is so many, cash flow advantages. It's 100% the thing you should do if you're good. But there is way more people that suck at it than that are good. And, I think if we were to turn let's say 80% of people got into business and 20% of people didn't, there'd be way less wealth in Australia than if those 80% of people just got into real estate. Because that money would just get evaporated. It's gone.
I don't know if that's true, right? So we don't know. So we're all doing this. But if you said systemically Australia was built in a different way, what would happen is our fixation, our focus on shit, CBA wouldn't be the number one company in Australia, that's for sure, right? there would be a lot more competition. There would be a lot more jobs that are created. There would be a lot more people that you can see that have been successful. You know, like one of the amazing companies in Australia, like we have Canvas, we have Atlassians. We don't really have that many. So you don't really have that many to look through and go like, they can do it, I can do it. You know, if I reflect like sometimes with us in our business, like you've got like a small couple of handfuls, but like they've done it so we can do it. The more of that you have, the more people that like are inspired, the more that are working with good executors, the more they learn. These things that have roll-on effects.
Do we know like data, like let's use the US, like it's probably the major economy where they've got major success in business. Like how many businesses are started per capita, for example?
I think it's 10 times the amount.
In the US.
Yeah.
And what's like the success versus failure rate? Because I know they have a huge amount of success and mega companies, but they've also got 15 times.
I'm sure like they would have a failure rate. I'm not saying the Australian failure rate stats are right, but I would imagine things are roughly the same.
Yeah,
I just think the US would probably have like a larger number of like growth businesses
more people
with more
like
than
that.
like several employees, and a bigger middle. Because you notice Australians love like working at the big end of town. I think that maybe that's just culturally how it works in the States.
I mean, a key one there is called the economic complexity score. And so a country is measured by the complexity of its economics. And Australia is one of the lowest, where America has, because you're dispersed, you don't just have like one sector like mining or this or that. It makes it a much more complex economy. And the reason that's beneficial is because you don't have like one or two levers. If they go down, the whole place is fucked. You know what I mean? Like you have a lot more levers to work with that keeps you through stable times. One of the things you mentioned before, Jack, which I really like, which is this concept of, you know, we're talking about using a data point and we got to get with the times. And I fully agree. But I guess a counter to that, right, is like we are in 2025. And one thing that I can't agree more with Charlie is this concept of right now is the single best time to build a business in history. As far as I'm aware, it is right now. And I'll give you a great example. So the three young guns behind you, 2 weeks ago, I said to the team, okay, we're going to do a go-to-market strategy for Kinso. This is their first careers, right? They've never done that, right? So I said, great. Everybody jump onto AI, do deep research, come back to me with a plan, and we're going to do a go-to-market strategy. And so they did, and now we have all of this wealth of knowledge. It doesn't mean just listen to AI and do whatever it says, but you've accumulated all of this knowledge that previously would have been years and years. You would have been, you know, underneath a certain person as a gatekeeper to this knowledge, but now you have it at your fingertips. And so I think one of the things, when I think about this discussion, it's like, is the property journey that made perfect sense, but now like thinking about the times and what's available to people, and actually the risk to reward from a business sense is far lower than it once was. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital. You only need, you know, a few subscriptions here and there, find a good problem, and you can make money. What do you think about that?
I agree, totally. Doesn't mean people don't suck, you know, like it'd be interesting to be like, how many people are even using AI in Australia? It'd be a very, very low percentage from the people I speak to that are not in business. And again, that's like, it's got nothing to do with buying property or not. It's got to do with just culturally. People would rather fucking put shit on other people, watch dumb shit on TV, and do things that are easy and put your head in the sand. So 100% people could go out there and if they're good, they could create lots and lots of opportunity for themselves and other people, but they will not do it. And it has nothing to do with property. There are, regardless if you own property or don't own property, it's like, it's just culturally, maybe it's not just Australians, it's everyone, but like people just don't do the work.
I guess the counter argument that comes to my mind, right, is you know, some of these things like they hit a block, which is like culturally that's where we are. But the reality is like the way something is doesn't mean the way it will be going forward. And the only way you change things like this, you know, this synthetic culture idea is by having voices and having people to look to and things like that. That has to be, you know, changed if it no longer is relevant. Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, like, you only have to watch primetime telly and watch the fucking Block or watch the footy and see the Swan sponsored by realestate.com.au and recognise that Australia has a property obsession.
To use one show on television like The Block, I think is like...
I mean, there's like several
Let's assume
shows.
there's 100 shows on TV. Less than 10% of them would be property-related shows and 90% of them would be drama and just shit.
Sure.
And then like sponsor, the same thing. It's like realestate.com is one sponsor, but it's like there's a lot of other sponsors that are like
Well, how far do you want to go? We can go banking. Like banking's built on property, right? And that's like, yeah, the biggest company in Australia, a huge chunk of the ASX, right? Like property adjacent industry. I suppose you can economically, it's a thing, and culturally, it's a massive thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do people talk with their parents or their family about the property this, property that? Like, I fucking find it so boring. I'm sure you're not bored of it because it's
actually,
your
I
life.
like talking about it with people. Fuck, I'm going to tell you something I'm going to listen anyway. So that's the point.
So it's like, I guess the question is culturally, do our role models have to be, interior designers who judge people on the block, or could they be actually people that want to, that believe in business, that believe in taking risks? And I think Australia is like, we're still so property fixated. The media has a huge chunk.
I have a little, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but like, let's assume that they did have an interest in business and we have this thing, tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if that's globally or not. Like, well, I'm not exposed.
Big Australia thing.
But it's like, again, regardless if it's property or not property, people in Australia hate people that are successful. If anyone is successful, even if they like them for a minute, they will find a reason to fucking try and destroy that person. Like, it's happened so many times. Like, you can only get to a certain level in Australia before someone wants to try and fuck you over. Yeah, someone who I find really interesting is Adrian Portelli and like the business he's built, and he helps people. But like, for some reason, I just have this thing in my head. I'm like, I wonder what the thing's going to be where someone's going to like all of a sudden turn from him being like this hero and what he's done is incredible to like trying to destroy him. Because I just have this belief that it'll like, they will do that eventually, right? There's always an angle where someone's trying to like fuck someone else because they've done well.
Yeah. No, I think that's historically been the case. I think what we're seeing is a shift with the younger generations because like basically when society, I think tall poppies is a product of a young society that was created on the other side of the world, like a colonial outpost. Everyone sort of had to stick together, and we're having this like, essentially it's being cut in two with the haves and the have-nots. And I think that the people that have not are essentially feeling disenfranchised to the point where they're like, fuck it, I'll be cringe. I'll like get after it. And that's why I hold out so much hope for this like generation coming through, is that I honestly don't think they give a fuck about tall poppies. And that, to your point earlier, just because things have been done that way before doesn't mean they'll have to keep doing it. And I hope, I'm optimistic that in Australia that like we'll get back to some kind of inventiveness, like people talk about, the Australian inventions, the Hills hoist and the Wi-Fi and the cochlear implant and all that kind of shit. That was like 50 years ago. Like we need some new inventions, but we've got it in our DNA. So I take an optimistic point of view.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Now, Jack, you've mentioned here something which is every person who makes big money in business ends up hedging it with real estate.
In Australia.
In Australia.
That has been a common thing.
Talk to me about that, because that was one of your rebuttals to me on social media. You said to the video, look at, don't do what Frank says. Look at his portfolio. Look what he's done with the money.
Look at where we're recording.
Look at where we're recording with you on the ocean. If he really cared about business that much, surely he wouldn't have reinvested into property. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, again, it's like I just watch what wealthy people do, and it's like anytime anyone has a liquidity moment in business, and it'll be interesting to see what you do in the future. They go and drive it into a big fucking house, or their dream home, or they go and buy multiple properties. And again, it's not I think there's a few reasons, because they think it's safe. It's like a safe place to put your money. There's good tax advantages, capital gains tax free for your own home, no land tax, all that jazz. And people love to have a nice home. Like there's something fulfilling. It's like you could have went and bet you have tens of millions of dollars in not even bought a home, just went and punted it on more businesses. Business is amazing. Let's go invest in more businesses. But like the reality of someone starting a business, selling it for a lot of money, and then starting another business and being able to do that again, I don't know too many people who've been able to do it. Like doing it once is very, very hard. Doing it multiple times is even harder. And I haven't even done it fucking once yet, so I can't talk. But like, I think people think it's like a safe, slow growth asset that Australia's economy is geared towards it. There's no denying that. Our tax system's geared towards it. That's great. Like, don't hate the player. Get good at playing the game. But but I've observed it. Like, well, I know lots of people. Jay Wright, first thing he did. The guys from White Fox, $150 million in Vaucluse. Like Ian Malou, fucking, I don't know, 100, like every single person is recently Toby Pierce. Like all those guys are just real estate. It's the first thing they do. They get cash in the bank. Simon Beard bought this fucking penthouse, built a big house on the water. It's like any younger person that I know that sold a business recently for tens of millions, the first thing they do is like, I can't wait to buy a big house. I just think that's funny, you know?
So what
they don't make their money there. That's the key. And I did say that. You're never going to make that type of money in real estate unless you know, using real estate as a business. But when they make it, that's where it goes. So it's like, watch where the money goes. And it's the same in the US, like all the, not as close to it over there, but like, I don't know, fucking seen that many stories. Jeff Bezos buys this person buys it. Even though it's a very small percentage of their overall wealth, like when it's not in their own business, it's generally going into hard assets.
So I think the thing I'll add there, right, for the people listening, because they might go, okay, they've done that, so I'll bypass the business step. I'll go straight to the creation of the property portfolio. I think the reality here is that there's no two ways around it. Like building a business is incredibly hard and it's fraught with risks. Making money is hard. Spending money is easy. And so I think if I were to, be in the minds of all those people who've done that, including myself, it's based on this. It's like you've done a certain amount, you're now locking that away and storing it into one of many different asset types. And I think the difference is, if you like call out those people, you're like the home is the trophy that usually makes its way on the internet. The boring, they don't talk about Frank's debt funds that he's in or his fishery farm in New Zealand. That's not really that interesting, but the house on the beach is quite interesting. And so I think I wouldn't, as a listener, like read or look too much into that. I think there's no way that denying that property is a good place to store value. However, I think it's just like one part of the equation.
For sure, but it's generally a big chunk of an exit goes into it. Even though it is a chunk, not all, most people put a big bit of that cash into real estate. And it depends on the level we're talking, right? Like if you're worth billions of dollars and you own a $100 million house, $150 million house, it's like pennies on the dollar in comparison to your net worth. But if you own a $30 million house and you're worth $100 million, it's 30% of your net worth, still a lot of dough, right? And then very rarely do you see that person hit it out of the park again. They're investing their money because a part of it's got to go into capital appreciation, a part of it's going to go into cash flow, and a part of it's probably going to sit in something that's relatively liquid. But yeah, I mean, again, they do it once, and I don't know, I've never seen it happen again where it's like, oh, there's another exit. It's like it happens once.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I know.
Kinzo.
But like, even in your situation, you look at the business you've started now, and it's like at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it's a sunk cost.
Yeah, of course.
And I have 100% belief it's going to work. But if it doesn't work, it's like, oh, fuck. I've done it once. I've ultra successful in doing it. And then I tried it again and it didn't work like the way I thought it was going to work. Because there's a lot of things that go into building successful. I'm not naive to that. Like you need to be good. That's one thing. You need to have luck on your side. Like there's timing. You need to have momentum. There's so many things that need to happen to have a successful business that actually gives you a good life. Like you can start a business. You can go open a bakery. You can fucking run a butcher shop. You can go and, do a brick and mortar business. Like the vast majority of businesses are not sexy, and the vast majority of businesses don't give you a life that the AFR rich list presents, right? The majority of businesses don't make that much money, and you just buy yourself a full-time job. Sure, there are the 1%ers like your Canvas or like people who are going to start these new AI companies and have fucking, like Lovable, what was that? Like fastest company to 100 million ARR. Like that is absolutely... that can happen. Just like in real estate, you could buy a block of land, it could get rezoned, and now it's worth 10 times what you paid for it. But it's the minority versus the majority. Most businesses are a slog. They're fucking hard. You have really good years and you have exceptionally, hard years. And there's no denying that most people are not built for that.
Let's talk about sweat equity, Charlie, as another lever to, again, for these young people looking like, okay, if property is the only way I can get ahead, let's talk about sweat equity.
Yeah. I think sweat equity is interesting from a perspective if you believe this idea that there's a huge chunk of the population that won't start businesses or can't start businesses. It's like there are assets that you can own that aren't actually houses, and that is literally being given
Helicopter,
equity. Jet ski. So there's assets that you can own by trading your time for equity rather than necessarily lining up in the bank and buying a house. And I think that's a really attractive option for people starting from zero. I mean, that was my first experience with ownership of anything, was being given shares in a company in Koala. And for those that don't go on to start a company, it's a great education in like how business actually works. It's a great way to align people to actually economic output and actually start building a nest egg that isn't just being, I want to be a landlord.
I like it. I think it's great.
Would you do it for your business?
We do. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's a big part of, I've discussed it with Frank, is like being able to allow people to either earn equity or, use their salary to be able to buy equity over time. I think it's a no-brainer, both for staff retention and allows them to build wealth. But again, it's different to starting a business.
Totally.
You've got some equity, but at the end of the day, it doesn't work out. You haven't really got any of your own capital or your own pride into it. Business fucking hits the shit and you go and get another job somewhere else. So I think that there's a slight difference, obviously.
It's like a gateway drug.
Yeah, I think it's like, you can make more money than what you could make if you were just an employee.
I like the concept you just mentioned, a gateway drug. Expand on that.
Yeah, it's like, I suppose it's like, it's the weed of of ownership. It's like
Before you get to ice,
you can have the
you start
path.
with
Yeah,
weed.
you don't get up. You don't get to the hard stuff till late. I mean, founding a company is definitely ice.
Yeah.
Don't sleep for day. I mean, it's a nice little taster to this idea of like, hey, I can actually own this thing. And what do you mean it's actually gone up in value? Oh yeah, the business is doing really well. Oh yeah, I know heaps about how the company's working. I can see the number going up and to the right. Oh wait, now I'm like wealthier. This is a great little high.
And you look at like the extremes of that, like Nvidia, I think it was like 1 in 2 employees in Nvidia are worth 25 million US plus.
Yeah.
Which is like out of this world, right?
Yeah. And I think like it's a good point you make about like that being such a rare thing. But it's like, they're statistical anomalies.
It happens.
But what if we doubled the pool of that?
Yeah.
Or tripled the pool of that? All of a sudden, like downstream at the very bottom of that funnel, you've got, instead of just Canva and Atlassian, you've got like 4 or 5 more. All of a sudden, each of those companies is, employing 20,000 people.
But I think, I don't know the exact statistic, but of the Australian economy, it's like a very large percentage of it is made up by Australian small business in terms of like employers and GDP. Do you know, have we got the statistic on that?
I don't have that.
It's like, it's high.
Yeah, it's high.
Like,
yeah.
It's the vast
It's
majority.
like the bread and butter of the economy.
Yeah, it's like,
But
there's a lot of small businesses in Australia, obviously, just a lot of them aren't that good. Like the reason Atlassian and Canva and Atlassian and Canva is because it's very hard to be those people, obviously.
But I think and we won't like rehash too much, but there's a number of forces at play, right? Because as an example, I know this intimately because when we had our early days of business, also had an investment property, which meant you're trapped from a ability to you had to keep paying that bad boy. And so therefore you can't do anything beyond the means of that mortgage that you have. And if you think about that from a population standpoint, we just made the decision, fuck it, we're going to sell these puppies so that we're not beholden to any mortgages. Not encouraging just everybody to do that, but like I think those things, there's a lot at play there with how much we have trapped into.
I think
property.
about it sometimes. Trust me, I love real estate, and it's good when you do a big equity release and you get a couple of $1 million out. But also, I hate fucking paying the mortgages every month. Like it's annoying. It's really annoying. But you're doing it for a greater reason, right? Like assuming you were just investing in the S&P 500 and you were doing that same amount of money, even though it wasn't getting paid to a mortgage, it's getting paid into another investment account. You're still using that cash flow for something versus potentially putting it into your business. And it's the risk thing, right? Like that's another thing. It's like, imagine people had that money to be able to do it. They've still got to back themselves, which I think is the biggest thing people won't do.
Yeah, it comes back to that earlier point. Is like the idea is not everybody's going to do it, but if as a society more people are doing it, there's more to look to and more to be inspired.
Do you reckon that's more? Again, it's like we're talking about real estate versus business here. It's like, do you think real estate is a reason more people won't do it? It's just that people won't do it.
No, I do. I think so. I think like as a country in Australia, because it's all about that. Like there's one thing that is common amongst all of my friends, regardless of the thing. anybody will happily talk about property. There is one thing in common with amongst all my friends. They'll not all talk about business. I got about 2 of those. And the rest is just like, I don't care. But I could easily, just start a conversation about, let's talk about this apartment and the value of that home. Australia's obsessed.
So what we're saying is start a business in the property sector.
So I guess, it's been an hour. We've had some good discussion.
Really?
It has.
Wow, it's gone fast.
Time's melted away. No one's yelled at each other saying you're a fucking dickhead. So that's good outcome because I like you guys both. Any closing remarks?
All right. You can have the last word. I think to take it up a level, it's like step back. I guess we want to ask ourselves like what kind of country we want to live in. And I think that it's good to, you hear real estate people talk about location this, community that.
Equity.
All
Asset rich.
It's all about living, right? And it's all about what a great lifestyle one can live. And I just find it funny that it's ironic in a way that in pursuing property investing and being a landlord, we're potentially impacting living standards for our descendants. We're actually getting in the way of the thing that people flock to property in the first place for, what they always talk about. And so, I guess I want to ask, what kind of country do we want to live in? Do we want to turn into Argentina and have crazy high inflation and have like poor people, but a lot more poor people? Like we're talking really poor people getting around. I know you'll be insulated in your gated community.
Keep them away from me.
Yeah. But it's like the opportunity here is for Australia to like shift. And I'm really excited about the prospect of that. And I think that young people are starting to like realize, they're starting to wake up.
Jack?
Keep the poor people away from me. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm kidding. Look, I think like it's all awesome to have these like discussions, but there's also the reality of the world, and it's like assuming that no one even thought about buying real estate now when they're 18 years old. 100 people are going to try and start a business. 99.9% of those are going to fail, and they're going to go back to getting a job and doing what is safe. Like it's just a reality. So I think the 0.1% who should, do it, they should definitely go and do it. But like Australia's economy is geared towards real estate, regardless if you like it or not. Our tax system is geared towards real estate, whether you like it or not. Getting debt to do anything in business generally is tied towards real estate, if you don't like it or not. And assume those things are going to change in the future. Right now, you start a business, that's the fact. So, not having real estate as part of your overall portfolio, whether you do that at the start or whether you do it after you build a successful business, I think is silly. And look, I've got a good business. It makes me a lot of money. It makes me more money than my real estate makes me on a yearly basis. But if my business went to zero tomorrow, my real estate's still going to be there, and I'm going to be able to leverage off that or sell it and have capital there. And I was only talking to my accountant about this the other day. Like he had a client, had an engineering business, very large engineering business, all in on this business, grow. Something didn't go to plan, and that engineering business that was, mega business was zero, and they had nothing outside of it. So I think even when you're in business, to hedge off the table, just like we spoke about, all these guys who sell their businesses, they realize that what they did was extremely rare and extremely hard. So not to take some money off the table to put into other assets, I think is silly. And around, we spoke about the correction at the start. It's like, that's going to happen eventually. Like I'm 100% confident. Trust me, I don't want it to happen. That'll be annoying. But it's just the reality of the market and the free market. It'll crash and something will happen. And then guess what? We're human beings and we fucking work it out. So, and then all of a sudden we're off to the races, and maybe I'll get a hat that says asset poor for a little bit. And then, and then hopefully I get a new one that says asset rich in the future. But most people are not good at business, so they should definitely stay away from it. Or don't believe me and try and start a business and then suck and then fail and then have ATO debt and go bankrupt, and then you'd be fucked for a bit. And then I should have listened to that Jack guy.
That's a really nice positive way to end us, Jack. Thank you very much. It fills my heart with warmth. I'm sure the people listening are like, oh God, that felt good, Jack. Thank you. I suck. We've heard a lot about this idea of people suck, and I think the reality is...
Let me just get that clear. I'm not saying people suck in general. I'm just saying business is hard.
Yeah, totally.
My business almost went to zero a few years ago. It's fucking hard. So I could have been a person who sucked. I'm just a realist with things. It's like most people suck at things that are extremely hard, that you have to be disciplined. You have to be all in. You can't do anything else. You can't it's hard. And like most people are not ready for the hard. So like you can suck and be in a job and earn a fuckload of money and build a good life for yourself and not suck that much. But yeah.
That's a course I'd pay for. How not to suck.
All right, fellas, I'll cut us off there. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that one. Let's do it again.
Thanks, Frank.
You're way more successful than I am as well. So people should definitely listen to you, not me.